Greetings. Today's talk focuses on three concepts. The first is we have a debate going on the battery chemistries being used for the Roadster and for the Tesla Semi, new battery or no. The second thing that we're looking at today is the fact that it looks like in the whole world of electric, Volvo has perhaps outflanked both Tesla and Daimler-Benz when it comes to the iteration that they're putting out the truck in. And the third thing we're covering today is the fact that about 23% of those that reserved the Model 3 have gotten cancellations. I wanted to make sure you guys were aware we may actually end up with an extra show this week because today is Tuesday, the 5th of June, 2018, and Tesla's supposed to make some pretty big announcements today from a number of angles. So I want to leave the door open for us to do another show this week that covers some of the findings that come from that session. Greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. Thanks for joining us once again. If this is your first time on our channel, please take time to like and subscribe. In particular, your like is helpful because it determines how we're ranked. The second thing to note is we do have a Patreon page. Any support would be appreciated. It helps us to modify and improve what we're doing equipment-wise and how we can execute the channel from an all-cost standpoint. The third thing that I wanted to finally note is that please note that you may say hello. We'll get to responding to you by the end of the show. But what happens is when the show is repeated, for those who weren't there for the live session, it makes it hard for us to maintain the conversation in a manner that's appealing to those that are not the original folks that were in on our show in the live session. So today's talk starts off with the fact that there's kind of a debate going between myself and one of our technical advisors. He's a buddy of mine named Lyman, who has a PhD. I call it from MIT, but it's actually from Georgia Tech. He's an MIT undergrad. And Lyman is in computer science and has been really helpful into our process of how and what we do as a site. In particular, what I was focused on is the fact that right now, Tesla kind of has a monopoly when it comes to trucks that run on long distance. The suggestion that was made by the CEO of the truck division of Daimler is that either Daimler is way behind or somehow there's fake physics being used by Tesla to deliver the semi-truck. So the answer that I would like to use sort of in this situation is that I believe that there's a new battery chemistry that Tesla's come up with, excuse me, that's being used in both the new Roadster as well as the Semi. Why do I conclude this? Well, this is where our debate is happening today, and we're going to dive into it both on the Roadster as well as the car. So let's start off with the Roadster. Now, the raw statistics that Elon gave for this vehicle is that the car will go 600 miles. It will go 250 miles per hour. It'll go 0 to 60 in about 2 seconds. So all of these are excellent performance parameters. Now, this argument being made, I almost want to use my glasses as a one person argue, the other person argue the other side of it. So my argument is that there's new battery chemistry here. Why? Because if you look at the images of the new Roadster, you'll notice that there's an interesting phenomenon happening, which is that the Roadster actually has, it's perhaps 60 or 70% of the size and weight of a Model 3, but it's able to go twice the distance, twice as fast. So the one argument you could make is that the vehicle simply has 2 battery packs in there, which allows these capabilities. Well, that's a good idea, but the problem is if you put 2 battery packs in there, the bottom line is that you wouldn't be able to get those performance parameters because you don't have a weight argument. So let me switch over to my glasses right now and discuss Lyman's argument about this whole thing is that if you go totally carbon fiber, you lose the back seats of a Model 3 and cut off the amount of physical car you're using, you also all of a sudden have on the same battery the ability to do all these amazing performances. That's his argument. Same thing with the semi-truck. Lyman is arguing, hey, the semi-truck is a great product, nice product, etc. The problem is that it's all they're doing is as much carbon fiber as possible to reduce weight and using the same batteries we use in the Model 3. So that's the sort of counter argument to my argument. So getting back to what my argument is, the fact of the matter is that we now have a teardown of the Model 3 battery to understand that the structural difference between the Model 3 battery, chemistry and structure difference between the Model 3 battery and the batteries used in the Model X and Model S. And then by extension, all the competing entities out there. So what's happening right now is the major manufacturers like Samsung and others are reverse engineering the Tesla Model 3 batteries and working on a battery solution that's comparable that they'll be able to manufacture within the next year or two to come after the advantages that Tesla has. And I really think that that new battery is likely a graphene type battery that permits some pretty amazing performance parameters that we're seeing from the truck and the Model 3. Now, I've been getting a laugh watching some of the things coming out relative to Daimler, Cummins, and others introducing electric trucks to compete with Tesla. As we all know, the big issue right now is that those companies are having is that in currently batteries that you can purchase to put into vehicles, the weight the truck is able to carry is limited to only about 30,000 pounds. The reality is that there's something called Class 7 truck, which I think goes up to 50,000 pounds. That's cab and truck. And Tesla isn't even bothering to enter that marketplace. And that marketplace has been ceded to Tesla because the only entity coming after them in that space currently is the, I blew it here on my, we'll continue. So at any rate, there's some severe problems going on with competitors coming after the Tesla truck. And the issue that pops up is that, right now, nobody can compete in semis, especially if we go over 200 miles. It's all Tesla. And it's my belief that this is a new battery chemistry that Tesla is not revealing, and they won't have to reveal it until they start delivering trucks to customers next year, which gives them time, I want to say, to build up so they can hit the market hard with a lot of units before they can get reverse engineered by competing firms. The next thing I'd like to sort of dive in, and speaking of competing firms, is what Volvo is doing compared to what Tesla, et cetera, is doing. Now behind me you saw, let me see if I can get my photo back up. It's back up here. Behind me what you're looking at is the Volvo iteration of electric truck. Instead of going off to primarily the market for inner city hauling, Volvo decided to go out to the garbage market, which if anybody has lived in the city and hear those trucks at 6 or 7 in the morning moving around taking trash away, it's a nightmare. So having an electric truck executing this activity is great. I believe that this is a smart move by Volvo. It kind of outflanks all the other competitors, especially including Tesla, in terms of making sure that there's a quiet entity. Why I think this is a terrific outflank is that garbage trucks use about $35,000 worth of fuel a year. And when you switch to electric and you're using sort of 1/10 the cost of that fuel in electricity, the payback time for the vehicle is accelerated dramatically when you add up fuel, repair costs, etc. Garbage trucks are excellent also because they don't travel that far, but they produce a lot of pollution, etc. So I just think this is brilliant, what is being done by Volvo. And hopefully Tesla starts moving towards using some of the extended range they have to be able to not only do the travel of the truck, but also the movement of the rear of the truck using electric. So all of those 600 miles could be used well in a garbage setting rather than just relying on it in a distance process. And as we all know, because the garbage trucks aren't going that far, if they needed any recharge, et cetera, they can do that locally. So at any rate, bottom line is that I think the Volvo iteration in garbage trucks is terrific. I hope Tesla gets into this market here quickly. Daimler hasn't shown a product in this area, but I think they will or are going to have to. Another thing that's popped up interestingly that I'm stunned, blown away by, is VW's Audi division has been compelled to stop taking configurations for their new cars in Europe. The reason is that for starting in September, there are new rules in terms of emissions, and evidently their current lineup of cars isn't clean enough to meet the parameters of the new emission standards that are demanded by the EU. And I think this is stunning, amazing news because it further highlights the fact that VW, et cetera, is going to have to be moving over heavily towards electric in order to fill this space. Speaking of this interesting VW decision as they go to electric, one of the most important developments relative to VW in this space is the fact that they have the etron, 200 copies of them going around the world right now. I am intrigued because this sort of blends into some of the conversation I like to have with our Tesla friends, because think about it, the VW took a former Tesla employee to help build that vehicle. The car, there are 225 copies of it on the road. It'll be introduced by the end of this year. The raw specs of my understanding is it's a very nice looking SUV that has 250 miles of range. So I think this is terrific that the vehicle exists and it's being put out there. And at 248 miles of range, about 40% of that is sort of lost in what you can't do, charge, recharge a vehicle all the time. So bottom line is that I just think that it's great that they're going to have a product out. It's great that it's in use right now. I do see a challenge lurking there, though, in that for 100 grand, getting people to roll with 248 miles might be a tough proposition, and we'll see how this goes. But bottom line is the EU is clamping down on emissions, and the impact is that there are a lot of players like VW that are being forced to move their stuff forward. By the way, I do know about the Wrightspeed product and its range extender, and it may in fact be sort of the relationship between Wrightspeed and some of these other manufacturers that allow them to move into the garbage truck space. Thank you for highlighting that. The final area I wanted to cover is just, there's any negative news that pops up on Tesla is very quickly made into a giant deal. And this week's giant deal focuses on the fact that there's a phenomenon going on for Tesla where 23% of the initial 400,000 users have canceled and been refunded. This is almost non-news because as the oil prices rise or gas prices rise, there's a real front end how many people are reserving this car. But if you could walk into a dealership, I think they could sell 20, 30 million of these, particularly in expensive gas countries in Europe. Tesla could sell an unlimited number of Model 3s. So the answer is there are really, 300,000 people that put down $1,000. The fact is that there are actually 3 million people that want to buy it that can't because there's just not enough volume. So I basically think that these cancellations is a sort of a non-news item, but still news, hence I chose to cover it. The final thing that I'm really sort of at the edge of my seat watching is Tesla's entering China with a new factory. They're doing a combo factory, which will include a gigafactory on one part attached to an actual manufacturing plant in Shanghai. I've been doing some reporting on this, and we've already seen it. You've already seen it come out. The fact is that one of the questions that came up is China is such a powerful manufacturing entity. How and why are places like Tesla allowed to come in? A sidebar answer to this is, did you know that half of the big-bodied S-Class Mercedes are sold in China? So it's a very important auto market, number one. Number two, they have a lot of money and are willing to pay for quality. And number three, one of the big problems they're having in China is quality issues. Um, so um, I just, so bottom line is that, you know, China is a competitor. They want to be in the game, and to really be in the game, they have to have Tesla because they're not able to generate that kind of quality for consumers to get into electric at that level. And I particularly think the reason why China is putting up the $10 billion to get Tesla there is they want the trucks and the impact on pollution that the truck electric traffic will impact once that plant is built. And so we didn't haven't even discussed the fact that 10% of all vehicles sold by every manufacturer has to be electric by the end of next year, and that percentage is going to be increasing over time. So, you know, we're at around our usual time ending, and I wanted to acknowledge my friends from Sweden. Enough respect. Jerry, thanks for the question regarding the patent process. As you know, Tesla has open patents, and what they've done is they've chosen not to patent a relatively small amount of what they do that involves the manufacture of the production facilities when it comes to batteries as the primary area. So the patents won't protect that stuff because they haven't patented it, and they are counting on few, if any, people seeing it as a way to maintain the competitive advantage that they have in that space. And it's one thing to sort of reverse understand what Tesla's doing. It's another thing to be able to come up with all the equipment it takes to manufacture that piece. The final thing I'm looking forward to today, and I think all of you, Jerry, great question as to why Tesla doesn't build another plant here for $10 billion and then they could export. Excellent question. The answer is sort of double-pronged. First of all, Tesla has the problem of just getting the current Gigafactory done and then all the manufacturing that comes from that. The second problem they have is, if you look at their debt-to-equity ratio, they have a huge amount of debt for what they've already done, and they have to start generating sales to help pay that debt down before they can do more here. The plant in China is unique because the Chinese are offering $10 billion worth of cash to allow Tesla to build and operate there. One, because they get access to the finished product. Two, all of those employees pay taxes, and they're employed in China, and there's potential those products may be exported once, you know, they meet, if they ever met the Chinese demand, which I don't think they will. The third issue is that China will buy jobs as part of their process. And so bottom line is that the Chinese have a huge incentive from a whole bunch of angles, pollution, jobs, et cetera, to give Tesla all the cash they need to make this happen. America is not similarly inclined to help support the success of manufacturing firms that represent the future. In fact, the goal right now of the EPA, et cetera, is to slow Tesla down and therefore increase the amount of oil we're burning and increase the price of oil on behalf of the primary donors to the current administration. So that's not going to happen. So I have to admit, you asked great questions about SpaceX, Tesla, or Elon Musk is doing well on SpaceX. I don't know the numbers on that. I have to admit, I haven't put a huge amount of research in it because it's enough to try to deal with what's going on in the EV market with Tesla and its competitors in delivering new vehicles. But if I get a lot of questions from you guys, I'd be happy to dive into stuff like that to understand, grasp, and have more to say. So that's about it for today. I wanted to thank you all for taking time out to join me. If this is the first time on our channel, again, please take time to like and subscribe. Your like is a big deal because it helps rank our video so other folks will be watching. I agree we should be exporting our products, not jobs. But as you may recall, Walmart has a huge facility set up in China with hundreds of employees to ship designs from the United States there so that we can buy them in Walmart at low prices. So America's process of job creation, et cetera, is a little bit unusual because most people are trying to attract jobs, but there are a lot of reasons America is trying to export jobs, and that's a fight that I can't cover here, but you know, it's a legitimate gripe. I wanted to sort of go through my goodbye in In process here, German Tschüss, mach's gut, French au revoir, à tout à l'heure, Hebrew lahitraot, Farsi choda hafez, I believe Dutch farvel, and in Patois / Jamaican, Nuff respect, wa goodman. And Jerry, thanks for your support and comments. We're on Tuesday today. As you'll notice, our Sunday viewership tends to be higher because around the globe there are more people that can watch us at that time. So most shows tend to leak towards a Friday or Saturday or Sunday iteration to get immediate likes. But we tend to get a lot of views over our 24-hour cycle when it comes to how the YouTube process works. So I'm just going to pop up my final view of the electric Volvo garbage truck. Good job from Volvo to help move into this process. We look forward to some interesting comments on Tesla as we go into the comments shared by Elon today. Thanks once again for joining, and please hit us on Patreon. We have the link there in terms of credit for new buyers potentially on our page as well. And again, look forward to any and all comments that you might have. Have a great day, and I'm actually looking forward to any and all questions you might have, and also suggestions of things we might cover. Terrific. All right, have a great day, guys.